Yeah. All right, we here. Kerry's gonna save his freestyle for the end of the show. No, the last time we recorded a whole one. So we're still ironing this shit out. We recorded a whole one, and Saul hit a freestyle, and it was really good. And so I pulled it up today. I was gonna post it on social media, and the audio didn't work.
I can't
for an
rap.
hour and 10 minutes.
I can't dance. I can play guitar a little
Does that
bit.
have anything to do with your ethnicity? No, I tell you that. There's
In this
some
climate-
really good white rappers you see on YouTube now. You got Eminem.
I'm going to claim it's all of that and my lack of basketball skills are due to my ethnicity. But
Oh, so anyway, so he can do anything, man. That's why he's doing this. Like, he's super smart. He just figures shit out. So he's not really an engineer. He's
and he
like
beats me
Hispanic ingenuity
regularly.
in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. While he laughs. He's not even trying. He toys with me.
So yeah, looks like camera's on you. So go ahead and give it a good smile there. And we'll get started. We got Kerry with us today. It's gonna be good. You're a cool dude. You go on your crazy rant.
Don't set the expectations too high, man.
I want you to just. So, for those listening, you have the craziest freaking job. Period. Like I've never met anybody else, and I will never meet anybody else that does what you do. You travel around in a new, pretty cool creeper van, right? You've upgraded.
It's all black.
And you sharpen scissors for salons with the machine that you made.
That's my weird gig.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, dude. So how did you guys make that machine? So it looks like a little disco turntable when I look at it.
So, all right, when I started doing this, I went out and bought essentially the best piece of equipment that I could get my hands on, and
It's
a sharpening machine. And for my weird industry, there's nothing that you can buy that actually works off the shelf, or even training that you can get. It's almost this business has such a high recidivism. I hope I'm saying that
I
properly.
don't even know what that means, man.
It's people who go into it and then fail.
Oh, okay.
So it's very, very high because it's sort of it's a weird thing that it attracts a lot of people because it seems really easy, and then it seems like a cool thing to do. It's a cool environment. Hey, I'm gonna hang out with pretty girls and make an all cash business and get into it, and I'll be an entrepreneur and I won't have to listen to a boss and go into it and and it's totally not that. And oh my, weird stuff's happening in my ears. Did I just
audio problems?
Is it okay? Are we good? Okay. Anyway, so I bought a piece of equipment and it didn't work. And my previous position, I used to do surgical instrument repair for a company called Cardinal Health. And as I did that, I had a heavy background in sharpening. All I've ever done is sharpen stuff.
Yeah.
I've never had a real job. I started doing that with my dad when I was about 15. And then when I was 18, the company that he worked for hired me. And then when I was 20, I became a peer of his. And, essentially we did the same thing working for the same company. And so I've always had that background in sharpening. That's all I've ever done. And then as I got into this business, because that was sort of, a falling apart thing and the companies were changing. And I was young and dumb and making too much money to be smart enough and thought, oh, this is easy. Anybody can. I'll just go out and do it again.
Yeah, what was the segue from that? You're sharpening surgical instruments, and then somehow you get into salon.
So every time I went and got my haircut, people asked me to sharpen their scissors.
Because they knew that's what you did.
Well, you talk to your person who's cutting your hair, your hairdresser, your barber, whatever. Everyone, you sit and you talk, and people would ask, hey, what do you do? And I'll sharpen. Oh, can you sharpen these? And consistently you would hear they didn't have somebody, or some old guy would come by in a creeper van, and it was nothing that anybody was ever consistently happy with. And so
there was people doing it, they just weren't doing it right.
There's been people who've done this consistently for a very long time incorrectly.
Yeah.
So my dad and I were hanging out because he's done surgical repair for 30 something years, and he brought it up to me. Actually, it was his idea, and he said, "Do you ever get do people ask you to sharpen scissors and when you get your haircut?" And I was like, yeah, actually, that's weird. And he goes, I've been thinking, maybe there's something to that. And so this whole thing was actually my dad's idea. But and then the circumstances that evolved with the company very quickly, I was like, man, this might be something. And so we looked into it, and sort of a condensed version of the story is bought a piece of equipment, quit my job. I didn't, and I was young. I was 26, and I didn't just quit. I didn't burn my bridges. I nuked them.
Yeah, you burned your boats.
And I had there was no going back. I was very dissatisfied with the company. I was still young. I was still legitimately dissatisfied, even in hindsight, looking back. And that company that I was working for, they're no longer even in this industry or in that industry anymore. So it was a sinking ship. Yeah, so it was a good time to get out of it. But I got into this new thing, and I went from making really good money to $60 a day.
Yeah.
And I had a baby, and I had my wife. We had made a decision early on she's going to be a stay-at-home mom. And she has a bachelor's degree. She worked for Big Brother Big Sisters, and anyways, long story short, we didn't have a lot of options, and I had to make this work. So, and I had a non-compete clause with the company that I previously worked for. So even then, I couldn't just go work for somebody else.
Right.
So I had to make this work. So what I did is just sort of started reverse engineering the really good quality Japanese scissors and trying to make the equipment that I have and augmenting that equipment to make it work, to make it function somehow. And it was, my dad is MacGyver. Like, I don't know if this is...
Yeah, I've heard you mention that before.
My dad can fix anything. Anybody who knows my dad, people grew up... Hey, my dad is the guy that can fix anything, anytime.
So he's got the combination of mechanical skills with supreme confidence.
He should have been an engineer. There's nothing my dad can't fix. He's just that guy. And so growing up, my dad as obviously my role model, you learn how to learn. That was something he taught me. You have to learn how to learn. And you have to learn in surgical repair. The basis of that is those instruments have been around for so long. Some of these, these tools that they're using right now in surgery are 200-year-old designs.
Wow.
And you can't be taught how to fix all that stuff. There's so much variation in those products that you have to literally learn how to reverse engineer everything.
Right.
What are they doing with this? How does it work? What's the function of it? What's the purpose of it? And then how do I make it work? Not having, I don't know, I've got to make it work because these people need it. So coming from that where you analyze everything, I applied that same skill set to haircutting scissors. And then I see what these are supposed to do. I would get really good quality high-end shears. And then how do I make what I'm working on work this way? And so I would change the equipment and change the equipment and change the equipment and do whatever I could do to make it work. So that's a convoluted answer, but
you started the business with just a machine that you bought, and then you made your own machine.
Correct. So I did this for 10 years on my own. I had one employee, and I tried certain different models. I tried hiring some sales reps. Turns out I'm not really a very good boss. I'm so customer service oriented as a person that I'm not. I'm a fixer, and so when an employee comes to you with a problem, it's like. There's one form of fixing it and versus when a customer comes to you. And so I'm getting a weird ear thing again. Am I doing something weird? Am I doing something wrong?
I don't know. We're not getting it over here.
It's weird. It's like it goes, or am I losing my hearing?
Make sure it's
I'm sorry.
Plugged in properly.
It's just weird because it fades out and then.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Sorry.
Put it on.
I'm sorry, dude.
Put on the title screen. I'll do technical difficulties.
I'm sorry. I feel bad. I'm okay. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so that's something changed. It's weird. It's like slowly fades
From one side to the other?
Yeah, it's just sort of like, and it goes deaf here and then it comes back. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Maybe the headphones. Maybe we need some new headphones. We'll switch them out. If it does it again, let us know.
Okay,
We'll switch
cool.
them out.
Okay, cool.
Anyways,
so so I did it for 10 years on my own, and then I, through a series of events, took on a business partner, and it was in hindsight, it was a big mistake. And how do I? It was a massive learning experience, and I've literally paid for a Harvard education in what not to do in terms of doing business with people and learning how to trust my instincts. And I just like anybody else can fall in love with an idea. I fell in love with my idea of growing this company that I'd built for 10 years and making it into something more. And a guy came along. He seemed to check out with the people that I knew. He had good references. It was introduced to me through people who were solid. He had money. He seemed to have the right motivation.
Right.
Wrong dude. Had a massive drug problem. Had in hindsight, I think, I don't know how much I should go into it, but I think the guy might be an actual, like a con artist type character. And anyways, that lasted about 18 months, lost an enormous amount of money. But in that process of, let's take it from Kerry's essentially small business to a big national real company. Let's make this, and instead of just everywhere you go in the United States having some random dude who does what we do, let's make it a real company. And that was what Shearcraft, essentially became through a series of crazy. So I thank you. We're having more technical difficulties.
Yeah. I think you should just keep talking.
I'm sorry, I get distracted. I have ADD.
Like a little bit of light or sound.
There, perfect. I'm nervous, dude.
I get tell.
I'm sorry.
Dude, shut up. I'll talk for a little bit.
Wait, okay, I just changed something. It's right here. It's this.
Yeah, you're fucking moving your
It's
knees
this.
so much.
Okay, I found the thing.
Okay.
All right.
You're doing my job.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I found the
So
problem, though.
you're
Okay, that thing. There.
It looks like Stevie Wonder over here. He's like...
Sorry.
Oh, it's all good, dude. We're going to give you a hard time anyways.
Okay.
But, dude, I completely understand. So I've whatever you're doing right in business or whatever major business, you can't leave that. You know what I mean? Like the things that you put into it, your face, you go and talking to everybody thinking, oh, Kerry comes and sharpens these scissors. That's what people are excited about.
But well, yeah, partly, but I don't want it to be that. I want it to be something that's beyond me, and I think we've been able to replicate that to a point now. We've grown much bigger than just me,
right?
And that was an early concern. And I now have like guys that work for me, and I'll go see customers occasionally, and they'll get real weird and defensive with me, and they're like, a guy that works for me, his name Cody. I use Cody, and I'm like, no, that's awesome. I like using Cody better, and I'm like, that makes my day.
Yeah,
you just made my day.
Because
that's such a huge compliment that they'll they like working with him, and I still have a bunch of my folks that only want to work with me, and I love that too. That's still great. But
so it's not just you; it's you and someone else now.
So yeah, I've got a handful of guys that work for me now. It's a reduced scale. We still have the website. We still do. We're in multiple territories. DFW Metroplex and some other states. And yeah, it's at a good space right now. I don't want to get any bigger. I don't want to grow it anymore. I just want to take care of the people that we've got. Continue to invest in and so another part of my business is not only doing the services, importing and selling product. So I've sold and imported high-end Japanese scissors and other tools, clips, combs, anything that goes along with haircutting for 15 years.
So what's the deal with that, man? I've always wondered why, if you think of a quality blade, you think of Japanese. Right, it comes, I guess, maybe from the samurai. They perfected this. So you went off on it a little bit before, but like, where does that come from?
As cheesy as it sounds, and I hate gimmicky answers, it's 100% because of that. They've been doing steel for 6,000 years, literally. They've been doing it and they've been perfecting it. And the Japanese work ethic is just different, and the way that they go about doing things is a level of perfecting. I mean, look at anything Japanese, a tea ceremony. It doesn't matter. They've got the steps of going through doing anything to the nth degree of trying to make it amazing.
Right.
And they do that same thing with scissors. There's a scissor company, the oldest existing scissor company is over 150 years old, 4th generation. but they're still taking that material. I mean, a scissor is not a sword, and it's different, and it's intentionally different. But the perfection of the steel and the tempering, and that all has played into what they're doing now. And it is still just the best. It's the best stuff.
So, getting all super technical, you see some blades that are sharpened, like it's flat on one side, and they just sharpen the angle on the other side. And you see some blades that are sharpened on both sides. Which one's sharper?
It depends. So what you're talking about is a beveled edge. So you'll have a bevel on one side or the other, or you'll have what's called a convex, which is a flat side on the inside, and then sort of a clamshell or curved on the outside. Usually the convex edge is sharper, but not always.
Convex edge is when it's two?
No, convex. Well, so what you're talking about is a knife edge.
Right.
That would be two consistent beveled edges where it's flat, straight lines. A convex knife edge would look like this.
Oh, okay.
What you're talking about is on that's a durability thing. What they're trying to do is it's an efficiency thing. If you're only sharpening one side, it's just faster. Plus, you can make some unique, cool designs. They look cool like that.
I remember I had a pocket knife like that. It was flat on one side. It was I think it was like a pocket knife / box cutter.
Yeah.
Columbia River knife had made it. And it was sharpened on one side. I thought it was so fucking cool.
They do look cool.
Yeah.
They do look cooler. And it's faster to make that. You can produce them and mass produce them easier when you're not having to go back and forth, remove the burrs, polish them out, do stuff like that. Yeah, it gets...
But they're not as sharp as...
Generally, no. So, this is technical nerd stuff, but all right. It's easy to do a beveled edge. You essentially cut a flat straight line on one side, and if you're doing a knife, a flat straight line on the other. But what happens is, if you continue to do that to the point where you make the blade sharper, you're increasing the angle, and you're getting it to where it's literally a more and more of a fine point. I don't know if you see this.
So it becomes weak.
It becomes very flimsy right there. So the intent of a convex edge was to achieve that angle, but also to put some meat behind it. So you're getting this sharper angle, but you're getting less of... Where that material is missing, you've got some material there to reinforce that blade so it's more durable. It's also harder to do that. It requires more work. It's more time consuming. So your really good stuff, the really good shears, all have convex edges of Japanese, real Japanese scissors. So am I answering?
Yeah, it makes sense. So like a sword or a samurai would be that same angle?
Correct. Well, and yes. Those blades are so refined in such a way, though. It's so different. I mean, there's 15, 20 different stones that they'll use, and they'll start with a stone with the blade is flat on, and then every progressive step, the stone gets more and more to the point where they're using these little tiny, it looks like pieces of paper, and they're just rubbing them down the edge to get that final mirror polish. It's still a stone.
Wow.
But it's crazy. I'm such a geek for that stuff.
No, I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
though,
it is
man.
cool.
And not many people know how that shit works.
I actually learned some techniques from watching. I read a couple books early on when I got into this, just because it was genuinely interesting to me about how they make those swords and how they finish them. So you have the sword maker is the guy who's forging it, and then you have a finishing guy. Then you have a handle guy who does a handle and a scabbard. And there's, or I don't know the.
So that's how the Japanese traditionally.
So there's there's different sort of trades involved in each thing. So there's not a guy who's like pounding out a sword and it's
beginning to end.
No, it's generally not done that way. I mean, there's probably exceptions, but generally that's not how it's done. They'll have the guy who's the forge at the smith, and then they'll have the guy who's the finishing guy, and then they'll give it over to the guy who makes the handle and the scabbard. And they'll cut them all out and make them out of a piece of bamboo and make it look amazing. And
each one of them spends 30
each
hours.
dude's an artist. Each dude has an entirely different thing, and that's all they do.
Wow. And then who ends up selling or there's another
I don't
guy
know.
that
it might be. I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know
whose name would be on the sword. Or
probably the guy who's the forge.
Right.
Probably the guy who's forging the blade. That's essentially the more important, or in terms of durability, that's probably the most important part. And then that guy would have finishers, or he might have a guy who works for him that does the finishing. That's a good question. I don't know.
Man, I got obsessed with the kukri blade for a little bit. I think we had talked about it.
Did you ever get one?
I have not, because I'm waiting. There's a specific one that I want to get.
They're pricey.
Yeah. But was it you that told me to get a cheap one first to make sure I like it?
Yeah.
Right? But dude, the kukri blade, did you see any of the history on that? On the Gurkhas, how they used it in the Himalayas? So, I don't remember the year, but the British Army was coming through there, and they ended up fighting the Gurkhas, right? And they put up a battle like none other. But they didn't have near the technology. So they ended up hiring them as mercenaries. And they're still mercenaries for the British Army.
Now.
and traditionally they carry the kukri blade. But they had a thing they would do when the Gurkhas would fight other militaries or whatever. They would try to sneak into the enemy's camp at night, get an enemy like in their cot, and try to cut their head clean off with one blow of the kukri blade. Like that was their truth or dare in fucking military. It's crazy. That was what they would do. So we try to go and cut their head clean off, but the way that's shaped is insane. It's like made just straight up for hacking, and it's super super thick. Have you ever held one of those?
No. Yeah, I've seen the pictures.
The back end of it is like
it's a hatchet.
Yeah,
it's a knife hatchet.
Yeah, if you mix a Bowie knife with a machete, that's what you get. Yeah, those are really really cool.
You need to get one.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Get a cheap one. Let's play with it.
Yeah, but I have absolutely no use for it. That's why I'll look
at
it late at night.
I have a katana in my closet. I have no use for it.
Yeah,
I break it out. I used to bring it out and
shit, he's pulling one up right now.
Get my son to throw me old apples, and chop them in half.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, my son had this. He had this crazy thing. Like, we have guns around the house, and we early on, did lots of gun safety. And,
yeah.
But Cade was always. He used to say to me when we were gonna, you talk about scenarios if somebody ever gets in the house and what's going to happen. He just knew that Dad's going to get the sword and it's going to handle business, and that was how it was going to be handled in my house. I'm like, no, I'm grabbing the shotgun, man. That's
But to him, it was
it's just
the ninja sword.
He was like, why would you do that when it's just why would you get a gun that's so lame and boring compared to the?
Well, they've done some studies where if it's like within 15 feet, apparently it's better to have a knife.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't feel like I would feel safer with a knife. No. Taking a knife to a gunfight.
If they haven't drawn yet, you're safer within 20 feet. Because it takes
Wow.
20 feet for them to draw.
You can cover 20 feet of distance?
Yeah, draw, aim, and shoot.
I got a buddy who's an engineer who actually got me into guns, and he was my neighbor. He's still a good friend of mine. Man, that guy's given me so many studies about every way, every how, and dude, he studies it to the.
So, not to disrespect him, but I feel like it can become an obsession because I felt myself get obsessed with that too. It's like when I'm looking at guns, I want a gun for every occasion.
Oh yeah,
I'm saying, okay, it's
black gun disease.
I'm going to this state. They don't have black bears; they have brown bears. Yeah. I need a gun.
You need a bigger round.
Yeah, I need a bigger round, but the gun can't be too big. I've got a big gun with a big round, but the gun's too big. It's not portable. I need a smaller one for this one occasion that I'm going to be in a certain area. Various
That's a
things like
great
that.
Excuse to buy a gun.
Yeah, and then you get it and you put it in your gun cabinet and you use it once a year when you go to the range, if not less, and you end up just wasting your time.
You got another gun, man.
Yeah,
it's not a waste.
So were you into guns for a while or what?
Started shooting when I was about 20. Got my first. I grew up around rifles and hunting rifles and shotguns, and I had BB guns since I can remember. But I wasn't ever into pistols. They were always something, that was kind of dangerous to stay away from it. And I didn't know anything about them, didn't know how to use them, didn't know how to handle them. Started shooting when I was around 20. I wouldn't say that I'm good, but I'm proficient. I do it often enough to where, as long as the other person wasn't
right.
way better than me, I'm probably okay.
Yeah.
I have my concealed carry. I keep it on me, but
it's licensed to carry now.
Yeah, well, that's true. They've changed it. That's how long I've been. Yeah, it's
It's just recent. This is last year.
Yeah, it used to be a CCL concealed carry. Yeah.
I want to get it, but I'm afraid. Like, I don't know. I'm all like super spiritual, universal, right? And I feel like if I carry a gun every day, then it's gonna draw bad things to me. You know what I mean?
I keep it in the car. It's not on me all the time, but there's those times when you're somewhere and you just you get that weird like. I don't know, man. Something's up. And
Spidey sense.
Obviously, I've done that. I can't tell you how many times, but nothing's ever happened. So I'm clearly not that good at detecting. But you got it.
Yeah. It's nice to know that you have it anyways.
Another weird thing that from that shooting that occurred recently, that church shooting.
Oh man, I don't know all the details on it.
That's happened twice. Well, there was one. It's crazy people. So
he went in, shot a bunch of people, and then when he was leaving, the neighbor next to the church saw him. And
another guy took him out. Yeah, well, he got involved. He didn't actually kill the guy, but he stopped him, and then I think the guy shot himself. But there was another one in Fort Worth, right down the street from where I used to live, probably 12, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was another one that at that time I would start carrying almost exclusively to church. I know that sounds weird, but everybody that's normally there, they're obviously not the problem. It's the wackos that see it and are
Right.
motivated to do something terrible. And it's like, I know a lot of churches now have people that are, designated Kerry folks,
Yeah.
to protect the congregation. So
We had I had some pastors that I had talked to about that. They said, unfortunately, that's something I have to do. I was like, man, that's such a weird balance.
it's another responsibility as a pastor.
Yeah, and you're living like, I don't know, man. It's like, what did Jesus say? Be in this world, but not of it, or something. And it's like you kind of you're trying to protect your
with that.
people, Like, well, that's the thing, though. I mean, you say good luck with that, but we also like when you live in fear of being in a mass shooting all the time, you're kind of under this idea that you're gonna live forever, anyways. So it's like you can say, okay, am I gonna live one day as a lion or a lifetime as a sheep? Am I gonna walk around afraid all the time? So if you walk around with a gun, you're not confident. You're afraid.
Well,
I'm a firm believer in it, because if you weren't afraid, you wouldn't be walking around with a gun. Now, I'm not saying I haven't carried a gun with me a lot of times. I've done this too. But if I'm carrying a gun, that means in the back of my mind, I think there's a possibility that I or someone around me could get hurt, and I need to take action on that.
I think I would say that I think maybe fear is the wrong word. I think you're definitely being aware, and you're aware of that something could happen, and then that you're taking the responsibility upon yourself to protect yourself. It's almost a sign, or it's almost a method of being hyper responsible. I'm choosing to not allow this to happen to me,
Right.
Or at least to have an opportunity to do something. I mean, imagine the people and they're stuck there with their families, and they have weapons at home and couldn't. What do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's levels to it. Like, I can say that as someone who's never been in combat or who's never had someone shoot at. I mean, I can say, oh, you're just afraid. Everything would completely change if, my wife and I are walking down the street, someone shoots at us. I'd probably carry a gun every day after that.
Well, yeah, it's just becoming aware. But that's kind of part of the story I was going to say. I would carry for a long time, going to church or any kind of public place. And then you get used to things being cool around you and nothing happens. And then some crazy event occurs again. And then I need to maybe I need to not leave that up to chance. Maybe I need to at least give myself an opportunity. I might not be able to do anything, but I have a hell of a better chance with it than without it if it's out in the car or at home. So I like the idea of not having
it, not needing it, rather than needing it and not having it.
So it's not afraid. And honestly, it's kind of anybody who carries regular, it's not comfortable. You don't like having it on you. You're not sitting there like, oh, I forgot I have a gun on me.
Yeah.
No, I have a gun on me, and I got to sit here and try to make sure nobody sees it, or it's doesn't make anyone else uncomfortable, or create some which it doesn't do, because you're responsible, but you're still aware of it. It's a lot easier to not carry it.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to not have it on you. It's heavy, it's like a bulky thing, and
What kind of gun were you carrying?
it's a pistol.
I mean, obviously.
Oh well, it's I carry the giant. I have a python, just like Rick from The Walking Dead. I have an enormous.
357.
Yeah, it's a smaller one, but no, I'm kidding. It's a little 9mm.
Oh, okay.
It's a little 9.
Yeah.
So you're holstering a shotgun.
Yeah. It's got a shotgun in my pocket.
No, I did a 4-hour handgun course with.
Yeah, you said.
Yeah, and I realized, like, everybody thinks that it's just point and shoot.
No.
It's like, no, you suck. You cannot hit anything if you don't have any skill. By the end of the 4 hours, I was way better than I was when I first started.
10 yards is a long way.
But before
10
that,
feet's a long way in a crazy situation.
with all the adrenaline and cortisol and all of that. Is it cortisone or cortisol? Cortisone is this. Cortisol.
Cortisone's a shot.
Yeah. Cortisone is the artificial version of cortisol. I think so.
Look that up.
we were making fun of last night. It won't ever get posted. We were making fun of people who steal shit from other people, and then we're like, "Look that shit up." Like, we totally stole that from Joe Rogan.
Cortisol is the steroid hormone. Cortisone is the artificial.
Yeah, cortisone is artificial cortisol.
So it's a hormone. It's a stress hormone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which also alleviates inflammation. Which
Really?
stress also causes it, right? So if you get a cortisone injection in your hip.
Have you ever had one?
No, I'm not that old.
Maybe
yet.
you need that in your shoulder.
No, I'm
Not that
fine.
old. Is that only for old dudes?
That's only for old dudes. old dudes and
never
athletes
had
that get
that.
hurt really, really bad.
Yeah, you see them dudes on football. Just sit on the sideline, get one in the knee, go back at
Scary,
it.
man. That's super scary. Football's they've made a couple documentaries about how dangerous it is, man.
This what CTE? Does
What is
the
that?
head trauma?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
I remember I was in the band in high school, okay? I played football in middle school. I mean, yeah, middle school, but I was
Yeah.
in the band in high school. And we were like on the track waiting to go out for the halftime show in the marching band. And someone threw a pass, and I saw those players hit each other, and they hit helmet to helmet. I don't remember the rules, if it was legal or illegal, whatever. They did it. And, dude, it was so hard.
It's brutal.
Like, so hard. I'm like, that cannot be good for you. That cannot be good for you in any way possible.
Everybody I know who played football has injuries.
Yeah.
And I played up until ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
I have injuries. I have knee. I have shoulder. I have this weird thing in my shoulder blade. I remember exactly when it happened when I was in 7th grade. Coach wanted us to hit hard, was getting us to get after it, teaching us to be men,
Yeah.
having us man up. And so me and this other kid smashed into each other.
Yeah, the coach isn't doing it at
And,
all.
no, coach is standing there screaming at us, you know.
Be tough.
Right.
While I eat my
yeah,
Cheetos.
suck it up. So you want to impress coach. And I remember I went totally numb, like totally numb from my shoulders and this insane pain. But he was praising me after the hit. So I didn't want to
Right.
let him know that I was hurt.
You got a stinger.
I got something. I don't know what it was, but still to this, like, it hasn't happened in a while. It'll probably happen now that I said it. You turn your head and everything goes numb. And I feel this pop and it hurts. I mean, it hurts for a good, 30 seconds or something. Something's going on.
Pinching a
and,
nerve of some sort.
I don't know what happened, man, but
When you look at the spine and like how delicate it is,
We're
it's
not
kinda
made to do
scary.
that, dude.
No, we are not made to
our
do
bodies
that
are
at all.
not.
So you ever think about how sports started? There was some dudes out in the field and they're like, hey, let's do this with this rule. No, that rule sucks. Let's do this rule. And then like 150 years later, the NFL, the biggest sport in the world.
Their
except
playground,
soccer.
their playground games. Like we've all made up dumb
Yeah.
games as kids outside playing with sticks.
The rules are being made up in the middle of the game.
Exactly, but that game was good, and then it took off, and then other kids would show. That's probably how it started. Yeah, bored kids. Playing
was fun to
games.
watch.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch, and then other kids would come, and it's fun to hit each other, and then I hear a lot of people talking, and I think there's probably this makes sense to me that a more organic football would essentially be better for the players because the helmets are weapons. The pads make you into you've got a suit of armor on.
They said about boxing too.
Yep. The impact of that fist is not. It's significantly. It's deadened.
Right.
So you wouldn't be knocked out sooner.
Right.
You wouldn't.
So it's longer term brain
right.
damage.
So you're getting more.
They can't break their hand.
And you right. So you see the old boxers. We've talked about this. How the old boxers they would essentially punch with the
the
inside.
palm.
Yeah. And that's why they look funny in the pictures because they're standing back and they got their wrists sort of twisted out.
Yeah.
Because if they fought every day and they did some of them, you'd have nothing but busted hands. So you hit there with that bone.
Yeah.
It would change everything. It would completely change all of these sports, mixed martial arts.
It's crazy how
UFC.
people are willing to like just totally throw their bodies away for a sport like that. They just get obsessed with it. I can relate. You get obsessed with something, you just kind of keep doing
Well,
it.
Cade's come to us and he's like, Dad, I'm thinking about playing football. I'm like, nah,
No,
I mean, and he's
that's a good call. As a
No.
parent, that's a really good call.
no.
You
I'm
know,
that guy, but I
you-
played football. I'm like, there's no.
You don't want to be the parent that makes them do stuff. You don't want to be the parent that doesn't let them do what they want to do. But you have to draw boundaries somewhere.
And the motivation is, it's peer pressure. I was,
Yeah,
you want to
he's
get
trying to
chicks to be
fit
on the
in.
football team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
you
trying to get
don't
the
want to be the
cheerleaders.
guy. You want right. So that was my motivation. I love playing baseball. That was my thing. Football was a thing, and all the coaches, we're in Texas. The football's a big deal.
Baseball is safe.
Baseball, well, yeah. I mean, significantly more so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, you have freak injuries every
You
once in a
don't.
while.
Well, you
that
don't
in
have the
every sport.
impact. You don't have smashing people into smashing people. It's
No, you just got the very rare risk of getting hit by a ball, but that's the same risk as falling downstairs.
Right.
Did you ever see that video where Randy Johnson nailed that dove or pigeon, whatever it was?
no.
Dude, so pull that shit up. You didn't see that? Dude, it's an MLB game. You remember Randy
Is
Johnson?
he pitching?
Yeah, you remember?
I
Okay,
did see this.
he
I
could
know what you're
throw
talking about.
so
and
hard.
it's a burst of feathers.
Yes.
Here,
He throws it, and just by chance, it nails that bird. Oh, it was one of my favorites, man. I bet I've watched this clip 100
It's
times.
surprising this hasn't happened more. It's just the amount of pitches that have been thrown. It probably has happened.
Yeah,
Just
it's
the
happened.
math.
They just got it on video.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
You can see a
It's
little
like he's
pink
throwing a
bird.
firework.
It reminds me of a cartoon, like the pink bird falls
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
There's no feathers left.
There's nothing but a foot.
Yeah, I played baseball for like 8 years as a kid. I was a huge baseball fan.
That was my thing.
It was, man, baseball's different than the other sports because you just stand there the whole time. You don't have to be in good shape to play baseball.
No,
Like even at the professional, you see those guys are way overweight. You just
have
have to be coordinated, and you got to be able to run somewhat. But I mean,
Enough.
if you can run, was it 90 feet from base to base?
Yeah,
So 360 feet.
yeah.
You got to be able to run 100 yards, 120 yards.
They're not the greatest athletes. I have a skill set for sure.
Yeah,
and they're
but-
athletic, obviously.
But skill, like, that's what it is. It's not It's physical. It's not physical.
So who is the greatest athlete? What is the greatest athletic endeavor of our time? I have an answer, but I want to see what
Right.
it is.
Well, naturally, I would say mixed martial arts, but I want to really compare. See, you have lots of sports that are limiting, right? So in soccer, you can't use your hands. That's out. In football, you're wearing lots of pads, and you have a very specific role, right? So that's out. In basketball, you have a specific role, but you're using your footwork, your hands equally. Plus, you have a lot of eye-hand coordination going on.
And and basketball always favors the tallest dudes.
Yeah.
There's not a division of
Right, there's not
5
a
foot
division.
and then a 6
Yeah.
inch and then or 6 foot and then
So
it's-
then if you go into where there's divisions, you move into combat sports. And wrestling, you can't strike. And boxing, you can't wrestle. It's mixed martial arts.
yeah, it's MMA for sure. I mean the stamina.
Plus, you have guys that do well that aren't super at like what's the big dude in the heavyweight division has big belly Roy Nelson.
Big country?
Yeah, big country, right? He's just big. He's always talking about eating cheeseburgers and shit, but he's very technical, very
Dude.
smart, right? So he was your big baseball player that's hitting home runs all the time.
It's rednecks that can fight.
Yep.
Grew up with a bunch of them.
And then you got super athletes.
John
that are
Jones.
skilled. John Jones.
Keontae.
Yeah, shout out to Keontae. He said he wants to do a fight or two one day. His brother just fought in Glory. You know that?
How'd he do?
He lost to, but he fought Thiago Silva. Dude, he fought Thiago Silva from the UFC. Yeah, he lost the decision.
That's a good way to lose.
Yeah. But yeah, it's MMA for sure. Right now, maybe it'll
Yeah.
change. Who knows? I know, but you have the whole spectrum. That's what's cool. Is like you said, you can be a nerdy guy and be really smart and win. But those days are over. The Hoist Gracie days are gone. Now it's you got to be very intelligent and you have to be very athletic. Tyron Woodley, he plays a smart game. People may not like him because he's boring.
Yep.
And he fights to win, but he's winning. You know
Well,
what I mean?
it's such a high risk, you know. You get to the point where you're the dude, you're
Yeah.
the champ, and then you start getting real paydays. You start getting real financial rewards.
Right.
So I mean, what's the smart thing to do? Yeah, we want to see him go out there and smash. We want to see him go out there and perform because he's such an incredible athlete. We want to see him do what he can do.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, I got bills to pay.
Yep.
You know, I'm not
And
going
if
to
he
go
goes
out there
and takes
risk,
a risk
yes,
and loses,
correct.
then his paycheck goes down.
Yes, significantly.
Or he could take a risk and win. His paycheck goes up. But if he
It's
just
a
plays
weird.
it, yeah,
It's a tough game, man. It's
Yeah,
a
it
tough
is.
balancing act. I mean, that's the thing. He's for sure probably one of the top 5 athletes in the UFC.
Yeah.
Who built like that guy?
man, he's just a total freak.
Yeah. I mean, again,
But-
one of the top 5. But again,
Souls met him in the airport like last year.
was he cool?
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna kill me.
Really?
It was,
He's
'cause it was
big.
like 6 in the morning, so he's like barely waking up.
You're in line for Starbucks, right?
Yeah, he looked like he just put his head on the pillow, right? And I was like,
He was a different terminal than us. I was totally jealous.
so I was like, it's fucking Tyron Woodley. So I was like, should I go ask him or not? And then he turned around, he's like, just all sleepyhead, and I'm like, hey man, can I get a picture? He's like, yeah.
That's
I
cool.
got it somewhere.
I'm always impressed when celebrities or anybody like that's cool. I don't know
Yeah.
why. You sort of, it's so intimidating to say something because you
It
don't want to
is.
be a bird. You don't want to
Right.
be that guy. You know.
I never do that. If I see somebody,
I
I
wouldn't-
never say anything.
I mean, there's a handful. I can't even think.
Lucy always puts me in check, though. She always says they're just a freaking person. They just happen to be really good at what they're doing.
Yeah,
You know what
for
I mean?
sure.
And majority of that
I
is
know it's still weird. It's still like
It's different seeing them in person.
Yeah, it is.
You see, we have a weird thing. We can watch or listen to or pay attention to somebody in this day and age, and like listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
Listen to Joe Rogan. I feel like if I saw that dude in public, I could go up and have a conversation with him based upon stuff that I've heard him. I mean, I've spent hundreds of hours listening over the years of podcasts. That dude doesn't know me.
Right.
He wouldn't know me from anybody. I would essentially be just a stranger to him, where in my mind, based upon the amount of time that I've spent consuming his podcasts or others, there's other people too.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. It's like an artificial relationship that you have that, and you're ultimately in like, I'm participating in his podcast. I'm thinking thoughts. I would say this if I were there, or I would, here's my comeback, or I'm laughing at the same jokes because I've experienced some of those same things. That dude doesn't know me. He doesn't have and guys like that are, in the mess of humans, all the cool ones and all the weird ones and all the not so cool ones and everybody in between. And, so you go up to a person at a restaurant, you see somebody famous, and you're like, "Hey man, what's up? I'm a fan." What do you say? I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan.
That's
your classic phrase.
Yeah, then well, that's what everyone's gonna say. How do you know that I'm a guy that's not gonna interrupt your dinner or wreck the time with your family? I mean, think about it. If you're somewhere, you're with your wife, you're on a date, you've arranged for a babysitter or whatever the circumstances are, you spend the time and money and effort to get somewhere. Maybe. I mean, you don't get to do it every night, but maybe you're lucky if you can do it every weekend. For some people, you're lucky if you can do it once a month. Mm-hmm. So you're out and you've got the time and you're there and you're hanging out and you're bonding, and then some random person comes over to you and they want to interject themselves into your situation. Now, like, I see a customer at work or from work, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, "Oh, cool, that person," right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to me. But it doesn't happen every single time I go somewhere.
And
where it's every single time. So it's like I can't go anywhere and do anything without an interruption. But then you're the guy who sees your favorite whomever, your favorite wrestler, your favorite MMA guy. You see him one time. I ran into Cowboy Cerrone out in downtown Dallas. And I was actually in the bathroom, and the guy standing next to me, I noticed him making a lot of noise, which is like, I don't know.
While he was peeing?
Yeah, he was making a lot of noise. He was hawking and making throat noises and like clearing his throat and just, just redneck stuff.
Was he looking at you?
But no. It was redneck stuff. And I was like, man, that guy's, it doesn't fit in here, because it was a nice place in Dallas.
You thought that or said it?
No, I thought that. Okay. I was like, I've got a redneck
was
here.
Was it Cowboy that was doing it?
No, it was this dude. It was him.
He was the one clearing his throat.
Yeah, he was like hawking, and I think he even had a beer bottle and he was drinking. And I was like, it just caught my attention.
Yeah.
Just like he was just behaving in a way that just I don't give a shit.
He's total gangster. He's the guy.
He was that. Yeah, he was that guy.
He's the guy in the crowd where if they put on a fight in Georgia, right in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden there's 5,000 people there, and there's some cage fight. He's like, "I'll fight."
Yeah, he'll jump in.
I feel like that happened like 20 years ago.
I think that's how that dude is. I mean, from the brief, it says, so I'm standing there and I noticed him walk out, and then he had like a motorcycle jacket on, and it said Cowboy on the back.
Oh man!
And again, I don't think that I'm not that observant when I'm out. I'm like sort of going through whatever. What's my yeah. So I was like, and then it occurred to me, and I was like, that's that dude. And so I saw him walk over and sit down, and I was walking around the other side, and I don't know. I was like, that's him. I think I said out loud, I was like, is that Cowboy?
Yeah.
And he heard me and he looked over, and I was like, that's him.
Yeah.
I was like, hey man, what's up? Are you in town for? There was a.
I'm a big fan.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say it. There was a fighter in the kids show. It was a comedy show, and I was like, hey man, are you in town for the show?
Oh, so it's recent.
Because it was UFC. It was about a year ago. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to the show. I was like, cool. And then I knew there was a big fight that they were talking about him coming up. So he was going to fight somebody that they were talking about him. And I was like, are you going to fight? Are you taking that fight? And he goes, no, I could. They picked somebody else. I was like, cool. I said, I really like watching you fight, man. Have a good one. And I didn't handle it well. I was out.
You weren't asking him for stuff. Can I have your autograph? Have a minute of your time?
No, what are we going to do with that?
Punch me in the face.
Can you imagine how many times those dudes get asked questions like that?
Like, hey, you want to arm wrestle?
No, I told you that situation. I was buying something, and the guy's like, he was like, what do you do? Do you do any sports? And Cade's like, I take jujitsu. And he goes, do you take it with him? I go, yeah. He goes, show me some moves.
Oh my gosh, you should have started done like.
No. This is the guy I was buying a hot tub, and this dude he was being your typical salesman, and he was trying to.
You should have jumped in the hot tub and started doing like a pole dance or something.
No, I didn't. It was so uncomfortable, and it was my first like. Because there's been so many situations in my life where you hear people bragging about their martial arts experience. Yeah, I've taken, I'm a karate guy, and I've got,
usually that's a red flag.
And Shotokan, or I don't know, something. And you just, how do I know this about you? And I've only known you for 2 minutes. Yeah. How do I know, I just met you and I already know that, you're a badass and you're going to beat everyone up. So I have that weird, like, I never want to be that dude. And obviously I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a year. I'm for sure not that guy, but it's just, and I know it's like, it's a weird thing. You said the other night we were hanging out, you were like, people, once they find out that you do some type of martial arts, they instantly, it goes to a weird place. They run all these
scenarios to their head and their placement and their value as a person next to you. It's so retarded.
Yeah, it's this weird, competitive thing that we have. So this was like, Cade mentioned it. I didn't bring it up, and the guy asked me, he's like, do you do it? And Angie was standing, my wife's standing, and she's like, yeah, he does it with him. Like, she's kind of proud of it. It's a thing we do. It's me and my son. So I've been more careful about mentioning it.
Yeah, I usually try to hide it. I really try.
Well, I'm not a badass at all. I participate. Yeah. I show up, and I do it. But
dude, there are very few true badasses on this planet.
I don't want to get in a fight.
Yeah.
The more I do this, the more I don't want to fight.
I absolutely don't want to be in a fight because I understand the repercussions of what could happen to.
We're trying not to hurt each other.
Yeah.
And we're being super cool in a space specifically designed to fight, and we're doing it, at different levels of intensity, but still never 100%. And we still get hurt.
Yeah.
And we're trying not to hurt each other.
Generally, people get in a fight that are defending themselves or someone around them are trying to prove something to themselves. They're in doubt of their capabilities or whatever.
It was always in that beautiful years of 18 to 22 when you're out the club. Mm-hmm. It's always the littlest dudes, man. It was always a little guy that wanted to start.
It's Napoleon syndrome.
It's some weird thing. I'm not a big guy. I'm sort of tall, but I'm not huge.
Oh, you think you're bigger and stronger than me? You're like, I never said that.
I didn't even know you.
This is projection. This is total projection.
What's your problem?
What? Let me buy you a beer, man. Chill out.
Yeah, it was like I don't even.
Yeah.
They never have my size shoes.
I don't know. I have no problem. I don't know who you are, man.
I never had to deal with that, dude. I don't know if it's because I look nerdy or whatever, but people are always super nice to me. And I would always fit in because of my skin color with whatever crowd. Like, if it was a crowd that, you know what I mean?
You have the perfect patina.
I just couldn't fit in with Asians. That's it. But I have Asian friends now.
But they're so cool.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Asians can be scary, man. Asian gangs, those are scary.
I've never seen that.
I've never been around either, but I've seen that movie.
All the Asians that I hang out with are customers in different situations. They're the coolest people.
Yeah,
they work hard.
Oh yeah,
they're in it.
It's that samurai culture, man. I guess it's just Japan, but
we have here in Texas, we have a huge Vietnamese.
Yeah,
it's huge.
We went and got Korean barbecue last night.
It's good.
Oh yeah.
What's the difference between Korean barbecue and regular?
You have to pay to cook your own food in Korean barbecue.
What a brilliant! How brilliant!
That's exactly what you're doing. It's really cool, man, because it's like you go and this place we went to, you sit down at a table and there's a grill in the middle. It's just like a flame underneath. It's like a hot plate basically, but it has holes in it, right? So it's like half hot plate, half grill. It's got a little fire underneath, and they bring you out raw meat, and they bring out it's almost like Southern style, share your sides too. Mm-hmm. You just cook the meat, hang out, talk, drink, whatever, and then you cook your own food, and they just keep bringing it. And this place, you get 2 hours. So you pay for like $25 a person for 2 hours. They bring as much meat and size as you want.
So it's like a buffet. Cook and eat all you want.
Cook and eat all you want buffet, and they bring it to you.
How much food poisoning did you get from not cooking? Drinking and cooking?
No, we didn't. Yeah.
In a group?
Yeah, there was one person that was cooking. She did really good. Except I finished first because I ate way too much early on, and then I was supposed to cook after that.
But fill up on the salad bar.
On rice. Yeah,
It's
I
always
didn't
that.
eat-
You're so hungry
Yeah.
when you get there.
I know. I was so hungry. I hadn't eaten since like 11 a.m. I
Yeah.
was trying to fast. We got there at like 8 or 8:30. I don't know. Maybe a little earlier. But yeah, I just filled up on rice. But you try it out. Korean barbecue is
will.
pretty good.
I like it.
You can get all kinds of crazy stuff. I have like maybe 25 different types of meats. All different marinades.
So what did you
and
like?
stuff.
Chicken. It's just chicken. It's what you do. You go to the old. You try all the new stuff. You think it's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome. And it's
I
chicken.
had some fried chicken.
Some chicken and
Do you guys
hamburger
have
meat. Do you guys have hamburger
cheeseburgers?
meat?
Just
Do you have
plain
fries?
hamburger meat.
You ever had ketchup?
It's ketchup. What's the deal with that? Ketchup and ketchup?
It's probably a branding
Look
thing.
that shit up. Catsup. You think it's a branding thing?
Probably.
I think it's an English thing. I think
So
it's
so here's a weird thing. Somehow I got on this thing on YouTube. You get on these crazy YouTube kicks, and
a rabbit hole.
I found the top songs from like I think it was from the late 1800s to like the mid 1900s, and it was a song of the year.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going through listening to all of these songs, and some of them are crazy, different kinds of music. Some of them are the happy birthday song. Some of them are nursery rhymes. Some of them are, it's like those. And so what's crazy is that 200 years from now or 100 years from now, nursery rhymes are going to be Dr. Dre, or because these were just pops, these were regular songs
my
that were on
gosh.
the radio,
Right.
That were or whatever format that,
Yeah,
that
you don't
people
think about that.
consumed. These were not like, where did Happy Birthday song come from? A dude that was a current contemporary hit at one time.
Wow.
That's nursery rhymes. Most of those, like if you go back through that thing and you listen, you'll be like, these are nursery rhymes. No, those were popular music of the day that was such a good song that it was sung over and over and over till it
When did the
became-
radio come around?
So there you go.
Because if it had to be something that you could
So
remember
Marconi
and
was the
pass
guy,
down.
right? He was a radio guy. Was that because they have an award based upon his name?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
18. It's got to be the 18.
I would guess
So the difference between ketchup and ketchup is just different spelling.
it's just a different.
It's
spelling.
probably a different set of spice. Yeah. So it was. Oh, okay. So here's ketchup means it was French for sauce. I think somewhere that.
Ketchup is,
I think
the Chinese.
Okay, it was a Chinese. Yeah, that's it.
ketchup is Chinese by
It's
origin.
Chinese. Yes. It
Whoa.
meant sauce. It
They're
meant
all
any
about
kind
the
of sauce.
sauces, man.
But
All
it was
about
any type of sauce. It wasn't specifically like a tomato-based sugar, vinegar,
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
Like KE-CH.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was like, oh, y'all got ketchup?
Yeah, it
Ketchup.
caught on, and then yeah, it got pulled into each culture. It was Chinese,
Wow.
not French. Okay, but yeah,
That's crazy,
I
man.
looked that up for some reason recently. I love Google.
Did you really look that up?
Yeah,
recently?
we were hanging out
random.
at dinner. Yeah,
In 1920, KDKA was not only the only operating radio station, but it remains.
1920.
No,
So
it's a radio
people,
station.
so when people consumed music before that, they were at fairs or at like an event, like a town
Yeah.
gathering. A hit was,
It had to have been. You had to pass it down through like knowledge.
or there was recordings. There was
Right.
records.
So in 1920, there was only one radio station. By 1922, there were over 600.
It's never gonna catch
Oof.
on.
It's never gonna catch on the internet. The internet stuff's never. Dude, net neutrality.
I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole the other day.
Somebody posted. Somebody I follow on Facebook today posted something about Bitcoin's supposed to be illegal. All of a sudden, there's like a cease and desist, or I don't know, something crazy.
They had a bunch of problems with it early on.
It's up at like $10,000 right now.
Yeah, it was almost hit 12.
Whew,
It's crazy.
It's like a. How would you describe Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a digital currency,
It's not. You can use it
and it's
any nation, right? It's like an internet currency.
It's essentially a completely free, independent currency.
So you can't get taxed on it.
right, and it's based upon it's a blockchain programming that not one central computer, it's thousands of computers constantly confirming that it's
The value.
legitimate and that the value is consistent and the transfers are taking place from place to place to place. So there's Bitcoin mining, which people can make money setting up essentially a server that mines Bitcoins, and what it does is essentially confirming. This is super rudimentary explanation, but it's confirming that the
Here,
transactions
keep going with this. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
are taking place consistently on the right schedule. So
it's like if I put like $10 into the computer for Bitcoin, so I can use it to buy something somewhere else.
So yeah, so now there's apps, and there's what you can do is you can get credit cards.
Right.
You can get.
Is it gonna be loud or what? Why'd you shut the door? If you don't know, Michael just walked out and he shut the door. It was open before he went to the restroom. All right.
So yeah, so you can spend it easily now. It's becoming much more consumer friendly. And then there's other versions. There's Bitcoin, and then there's Litecoin and Ethereum, and there's dozens of them.
Right.
Other emerging digital currencies with similar things. So the Bitcoin story is pretty cool. The whole thing started off with a guy, it's a Japanese guy. I think it's Satori was his first name. I don't remember his entire name, but the story is. He was early and instrumental and essentially designed the format of Bitcoin and brought on some coders, some programmers to make this currency work. And then at one stage, he literally disappeared. No one knows who this dude is. So the dude who invented Bitcoin is, we don't know.
Yeah.
There was a guy who came out somewhat recently and said he was the guy.
Right.
I don't know how that was ever confirmed. But it's such a crazy story. It's like some fictional character, came in and invented this thing, and then it's almost a perfect scenario because there's not a guy.
Right.
So the fact that the guy who was the guy, and then he became like romanticized that he was the guy.
Yeah.
No one knows who the guy is. He's still. We don't know. He's a ghost. He's the Bitcoin guy.
So there's one guy that actually started it. So we could upgrade this shit and get you a mic. I feel like an asshole. He does have a mic. Shut up and do computer stuff. All right, well, we'll have to upgrade the switcher, whatever the thing is, mixer, switcher. So Bitcoin, I remember seeing it. I want to say a month ago, and it was like 5,000.
Yep.
It is 10th. Huh?
That's what it's valued at?
It was valued at 5,000 per Bitcoin, 5,000 US dollars.
It's bouncing between 10 and 11 right now.
Now it's over 10. Before that, when it was at 5, everybody was freaking out. Oh my gosh, it's at 5. I remember it was in like the hundreds, like what, a couple years ago? So if you invested, you say, hey, I'm going to spend $1,000. I'm going to buy 5 $200 Bitcoins.
Yep.
Then 2 years ago, and then today,
$11 million bucks. No, I did the math.
Really?
It's insane. Yes.
Wait, no, five Bitcoins.
Hold
would
on.
be, well, I
Do
guess if you get it right when it first started,
If you put $1,000 in at $100 a piece,
that's 10 Bitcoins.
yes.
You'd have
Hold on.
$100,000.
Let me do the math. You went to public school.
Yeah, you have 11 million. I thought you were joking. It's like,
I wanted to pick a big number to make it impressive. I don't know what the number is.
1 Bitcoin right now is 11,300.
So if you bought it at let's say you bought 1,000 times
1,000 Bitcoins?
times 200.
if you bought 1,000 Bitcoins, then yeah.
No. I'm sorry. Let's say how much? Okay, hold on.
Because you have to spend.
So wait, if you had
$200,000
$1,000 divided by
5 Bitcoins, it'd be
200, so you'd have
55,000.
Yeah.
56,500.
You'd have a lot.
$40.
it would be significant.
Yeah, you would take 1,000 and you would 55 times.
But
your
here's the
money.
crazy thing: it can grow exponentially, even though there's a limited amount of coins. Those coins can be divided and divided and divided and divided, and it still doesn't lose value, and it can still be tracked and used in the same manner.
Are people buying them right now? So like
Yes.
a month ago, when it was at 5,
I did.
you bought one?
I bought. I spent a certain amount of
Yeah.
money I put into
Bought
it.
some. I was like, man,
It's a gamble. I mean, I don't know enough to know.
Yeah.
But I know this. I can afford to gamble a little bit,
right?
and if it becomes the currency that it potentially could be, then it could be worth a lot.
Wow.
The thing is okay. So
I have to pull up the article that said they're trying to make it.
Well, here's what
trying to
actually
shut it down.
happened. All right, so one of these Middle Eastern places that is having a significant problem with the finances and all the craziness. In the midst of all the people going through the government being devalued so much, I mean, when they took any assets that they had and they used that. They used digital currencies to preserve it. They also used cell phones.
Wow.
Cell phones and digital currency preserved the wealth of these nations going through craziness, and the kind of craziness we've never seen here.
Yeah,
like actual massive civil wars. Those people still have assets. They still have money. Their money was worth nothing, so they put it into that, and it survived. And they were able to come up with a commerce system of sorts that they could still function and buy groceries, and not have $1,000 that they had the day before be worth less than a penny in a day because the government did something. Wow. That's the beauty of it, is it independent of that. But governments hate that, man. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's any way that they can. Wow. They're gonna. So it's a risk for sure. And if you're gonna buy Bitcoin, you really honestly need to say, if I never see this money again, it's okay.
Yeah.
Unless you really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's a risk. So the amount of money I put into it wasn't substantial.
Right.
It was enough to go, okay, if I never see that again, it's okay. But if something does happen,
great,
cool. It's a gamble. I ironically, I one time made a good choice and bought Apple stock when it was like $90,
mm-hmm.
and I ended up buying enough to where when it was, I think I sold at like $450.
Oh wow!
And it wasn't a huge investment at the time, but it ended up being, it was
incredible.
I guessed right one time.
Yeah.
And I've never done that since. And every other time I thought something was it was dumb. It was bad. But I'm like, who's not going to buy Apple? And consistently, so
Built
far,
up.
that's, yeah. But I sold that a long time ago.
You ever think about, like, why we don't just barter more than we do? Like, no one ever can really consider us bartering.
I trade sharpening for haircuts.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're in the same industry.
Right.
I need a haircut. They need sharp scissors. We do that regularly.
We traded jiu-jitsu for knives.
Yeah. So, yeah, we should. We should all do that.
There's something that feels wholesome about bartering. Like, when you do it, it just feels right.
Well, you feel good. You're doing something.
It feels fair.
Yeah.
And it feels genuine. And I don't know, there's something about, like, friendship and money that I hate. They don't go well together,
So there's that weird sort of
you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You came over. You come over one day and you help me rake leaves, and then I'm like, hey, Kerry, what are you doing? Like, oh man, I'm trying to get, all these leaves out of my pool. Well, I'm free this afternoon.
Yeah, man,
head
I'll come
over
over.
here. Right. And it's not like I owe you, you owe me. It's like a genuine wanting to help somebody.
No, it's
and so
fun
bartering
working
is
with
like
friends.
in the middle there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bartering is in the middle between that and money.
So or except when you have the friend that you know. Or it's the friend that you don't know that well that sends you the message through Facebook. They haven't seen it. Well, hey man, what's going on? You're like, hey, what's up? Hey, I want to get together with you.
Oh gosh,
I've got this great supplement that I want to show you. You're like, oh God, man, don't make me do this.
Yeah,
I like you, man. Don't make me
burn a lot of
so
bridges.
uncomfortable. God,
Yeah.
it's so uncomfortable.
I won't name names, but
I'm sorry to anybody who sells that stuff. Man, it's brutal when you go to your friends and you hit them up. You're there. It's a scam. It's multi-level marketing. It's scam.
So we were watching The Office the other day.
Sorry for whomever. I don't mean to offend anyone.
He was trying. Have you seen the episode? So you know what I'm talking about. He goes, I've got this new blah blah blah. He goes to the whole scheme, and he goes, it's really simple. I signed 2 people up, and they signed 2 people up, and Jim's like, dude, it's a pyramid scheme. And Michael's like, no, it's not. So he goes up to the little drawing he did. He just draws a line around the people and it makes a triangle.
So, yeah, but when the person approaches you, and I'll have this occasionally with customers, people I've known for a long time, some 10, 12, 13 years.
Sucks, dude.
And they have that. They go through
the potential to ruin the relationship.
Yeah, and you don't want to. Yeah, but you know it's coming because they have that certain pitch, and then they've went to a class, they've been taught how to sell at a seminar, and they're coming at you with it, and they say the same things. Man, how'd you like $1 million in your pocket?
Yeah.
Or
this is the
what
one.
would it feel like if you?
What would an extra $1,000 a month do for your family?
Yeah, it's like
that's the one.
What?
That's the one.
Are you gonna give me some money?
Yeah.
No, but I can show you how.
Yeah.
All you got to do. And I'm like, no. I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. I just can't.
Sell 375 sticker
I love you,
bars.
brother, but I can't get involved in whatever it is that you're involved with. I can't. So you don't want any more money? And then they get that confrontation. And you're like, no, man, I got too much. No, then you have to make up some. Yeah. I got some company. No, I like money.
Get to the
Huh?
'Cause they gotta turn that money,
That's
right?
basically what that's happening. Those kids fundraisers, man. That's
At least they're selling something. That's a fair trade. I'm selling you a piece of candy. It's
Yeah.
probably
And you don't
overpriced,
have
but
to
at least you
sign
know
up
what.
for anything.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not buying electricity from some weird thing or a prepaid legal service or. It's always vitamins, man. Vitamins.
Supplements.
And I know some people who've done well at that, and I respect that. It's cool, but I just feel super weird about it.
I remember when I was
People
younger.
approach me.
We started to figure that out slowly, and it was exactly the same mindset you're saying now. It's like over time, you're like, how many different angles these people are going to come at from all aspects. Like I said, it's ruined
Soap,
a relationship in my
candles.
life. It's completely ruined it, and it was family.
Mhm.
Like, don't talk anymore at all because
Well, and
every time you talk to them, they try to get you back on board. Like 20, 30 times.
And the person who's doing it has invested in it. That becomes a career to them.
Yeah.
Well, the career, and I understand that aspect of it. But professions require you to do business with people you don't know generally. You're providing
yeah.
a service. If that person walks in the door and happens to be your friend, cool.
Right.
But it's not specifically targeting your friends and acquaintances
Yes.
to make a living. That's
That's why I hate that so much.
you're using the relationship to profit.
I
You're
will
not
never,
using-
ever
Yes.
ask someone to come train jiu-jitsu. Ever.
No.
Ever.
No,
If they're
'cause
like, hey, I'm looking for a place to do martial arts. I'm like, I have a gym. You can check it out if you want.
yeah, that's perfect.
That's about it.
That's
That's about
perfect.
it.
That's the perfect way to hit it. That's
Yeah.
it. It's there.
Because
Cool.
then
It's
you,
not cool.
you ruin it, man. That's so true.
Because then it becomes about you trying to extract money
Yeah.
of somebody
What
that
can
you
I
know.
get from you?
Mhm.
And people can read those signals a mile away.
Instantly. We're children.
Wonder what it is that like on a deep level, it's like a sense of community. Like if I'm around you and I always sense, man, Kerry's just seeing what he can get out of me, right? Which is not the case. But if that was the case, it's like a total turnoff. And so it's almost like it's almost human. It's in our
It's
nature.
self-centeredness. It's self-serving. You're only interested in yourself,
Not
and what
in the
you're
community,
getting.
not
Yeah.
as a whole. Not
Right.
everybody
It's
as a whole.
just old school selfishness.
Yeah.
It's just what me.
That sucks because that's like a self-defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That was developed when they were younger. Maybe they didn't have enough food.
And people
or-
in those situations are doing it out of desperation.
Yeah.
You know,
And fear.
and we all have internal greed, and we all have internal want, and we all have things that we want to buy,
Yeah.
but we don't all have the means or methods to go out and acquire those things. I think we have the skill set. So you coming over here, I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like, what's a thing that I don't hear people talk about? I want to talk about hyper responsibility, individual hyper responsibility. I think.
You mean responsibility outside of yourself?
No, responsibility for yourself and the outcome of your life and the things that we encounter in life, and taking every opportunity that you can to claim responsibility for everything that happens in your life, or as much as you possibly can within reason, because it's such a freeing thing to me, and I don't see it or hear it talked about regularly anymore. It's something. It's always been a theme in my life that I feel the success that I've had and the failures that I've had have all been me, as much as I possibly can, accepting as much responsibility for my circumstances, both the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. And we don't hear that, man. That is not a theme that's regularly spoken about, or people reinforced the quality of the freedom that comes along with actually being responsible for yourself and your circumstances.
So you feel like we have a society full of victims?
Well, it's so much easier for everything that goes wrong to be somebody else's fault.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
so easy.
Absolutely.
It's a trap. Almost everything that goes wrong in almost everyone's lives. There are circumstances that are not. But when you're saying this thing happened to me and it's bad, and the reason that I'm here is because of that thing, you need to be real careful. You need to be very specifically careful about what it is that you're pointing to and how much blame is in that. So I had this bad business situation that went down. Ultimately, I had somebody get involved with dishonest intentions, who was a dishonest person, who was very troubled and had the track record is put it on paper and it seems real obvious.
That's your fault.
The good guy. That's my fault though.
Yeah.
I let that guy in. I own that.
Yeah.
The freedom that gives me to be able to not be paranoid about moving forward or taking other risks or looking at other opportunities in business, life, with relationships with people. you don't walk around shell shocked, afraid that the next bad guy is going to jump out and do something terrible to you and negatively affect your life. And I mean, I lost a lot of money, and it would be a lot of money to a lot of people, and it's a lot. And it was devastating to me, to my family. It was bad.
Right.
But that's my fault because I opened the door, and I ignored red flags because I was optimistic and I was in love with my idea. I wanted to make it work. I thought, why would anyone not want this to work? And I assigned my intentions and my ambition, and I put that on others, thinking we were on the same page.
Yeah.
But obviously that wasn't the case. But the freedom that it gives me to own that mistake gives me the freedom to move forward with
and
confidence.
make change.
Yeah, because you learn from it.
Right.
You learn from it, and we have to own it. We have to own as much as we possibly can because there's freedom in owning.
I think there's a fear of owning that. If you own that you made a mistake, then you have to admit that you're not perfect. But admitting you're not perfect is freeing
It's
in itself.
free.
Because you realize that there's room to grow. If
Yes.
you were already perfect, what would be the point? What would be the point of doing anything?
I mean, who talks about this, man? Who talks about this anymore?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, outside of conversations like this, it doesn't. We don't hear
No.
politicians, especially.
We don't think about it, and all this knowledge gets passed down subconsciously. So you see all these victim roles, all this stuff on the news all the time, all over Facebook.
It's a position of it's to be admired.
Yeah, to be a victim.
There's equity in victimhood. There's
Because
it's
it's
a
a way
currency.
out. It's a way
It's
out.
a currency. But well, so and so, what? Just somebody was accused of something. Some of this crazy sexual harassment stuff going on. Some news guy.
So okay, dude, that feels like a fad right now.
Yeah.
But it's a cop out when you're a victim in anything. It's a cop out.
Yeah.
To an extent, right? There's obviously
There's victimhood of I'm in the bank. The bank robber comes in. He shoots me in the back. I fall down and then bleed out. And that's a pretty
victim.
pure victim.
yeah.
That's not, well, I shouldn't have gone to the bank that day, because there's, bank robbers. That's just, those things happen. And that's a pretty obvious thing when you're a real victim. You're a victim of a crazy scenario like that. Or, you're like the people on the plane and the terrorist comes. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah.
You can do nothing. But the one plane, they had the one dude, the one that crashed. They took responsibility. Hey, we were victimized. The terrorists came to take over. They got up. There's a movie, Flight. What is it? That movie? This is old school stuff. But anyways.
The one that hit the Pentagon?
No, not that one. The one that crashed in the field.
Oh. Okay.
Because the Let's Roll guy, he was a martial arts guy. He went up and they took him on in the cockpit. And they got in this big brawl and ended up the plane crashed.
They killed everybody?
Yeah, everyone died, but they went out with a fight.
Let's Roll guy?
Yeah, that was a whole thing.
Nick Mitria saved everybody's life? Just roll.
No, he calls. Okay, here's the story. This is a terrible recollection of this story. I'm sorry, I'm telling it wrong. The guy calls his wife, says the plane has been hijacked. There's terrorists here. I think they killed the pilot or something. There's me and a few other guys. They're all making eye contact. The terrorists are, sit down, shut up, do whatever. We'll kill you all. And he calls his wife. He's like, I love you if this doesn't roll. I mean, what a crazy... This is real. This isn't a movie.
He acknowledged, okay, this is the best I can do.
But I'm doing something.
I'm going to die
I'm doing
anyways,
something.
But at least we're going to stop it from
And so
hurting
the
other
last
people.
thing that the phone picked, he looks at the other guys and he's like, let's roll. And so they get up and they go. And that was the last
That's
thing
inspiring. That's like a true...
crazy.
It gives me goosebumps. That's a true hero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
'Cause
real.
He could be a total coward and be... Well, not even be a coward. Just succumb to fear. And just sit in your seat and hope for the best. If you don't say anything, you don't do anything, maybe you'll live.
I get we all like to sit here and say that we're going to do that.
I don't know. I mean, I can't guarantee that
I know.
I would.
No, you can't.
There's
So
a
you're
part
there.
of me that says I would. There's a part of me like, man, I'd be terrified.
Because there's a party that would be thinking, man, if we just chill out and wait, maybe
Yeah.
and they don't want to
Maybe-
die too.
Yeah. You're talking
Especially
about
the
it.
first time, they don't want to die too.
You're taking a gamble there because
For
there's a
sure.
possibility maybe you will make it out.
Maybe they'll land. They'll ask for money. We'll be cool. Just be cool, honey. Calm down. Everything's fine. Let's just chill out. I can go down the road real easy.
Yeah. Man.
How do you decide?
You just follow your gut in that moment. That's beyond the mind's ability to
In my
decide,
mind,
you know?
in my mind, Let's roll.
Yeah. Yeah. I say I would.
I
do
like
it,
that
but
ending.
They call Nick.
The closest I've had to that is the petty story. I'm not even gonna compare it to that. The
No,
closest
you have to tell it now.
The
You were at
closest-
Chili's and the waiter didn't bring your drink, and you were
and I
like,
had to put my foot down. No,
Ma'am.
ma'am, my wife asked for lemonade, not a sweet tea.
"This has got to change."
So, no, my wife and I are walking down the street, just down from here, and this is like, okay, I'm not comparing it to that scenario, just the feeling. I look like a total coward now. No, I stood up, right?
Yeah.
No one's ever attacked us or anything, but we're walking, and I don't like to single out breeds, but this big, mean-looking dog comes out. Like, it's like a movie, dude. We're walking, he comes out in the street, squares up with us, starts growling, and stands his ground, moves forward just a little bit. And he was totally like a dog that could just totally mess both of us up bad. Like, maybe kill one of us while the other one ran away. So I was like, all right, I got to go forward here so that she can get away. Otherwise, we can both run, and maybe he'll catch one of us, probably her. I'll probably outrun her. My legs are way longer. So I was like, I got to do something. So I went forward, and this dude's a big dog. And I'm like, I know they said in jiu-jitsu you can choke a dog out or whatever. Or what, you see it in news articles. You ever see that article? The kid choked a dog out? Whatever. I was like, I stepped forward, and I was like 50%. I was like, I'm about to lose half of my arm. It's a big dog, and he was pissed. I moved forward, put my chest out like you do with a bear or whatever, and he backed down right after I got closer. But there was a good 10 steps that I took.
You made the decision. You did it.
So I stepped up.
You chose.
But I felt it. 99% of me was like, I got to do this. But there was a 1% of me, I'm not gonna lie, it was like, dude, are you sure you're gonna do this? Like, are you sure maybe there's a better way?
Is this really a situation where this is really happening? Or
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
over, I
The
question,
1%
am I
was-
overreacting? Is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
1% is, what the fuck? Why do we got to do this? Like, is this really
Yeah,
happening?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Really? Right
But
now?
you're like, I have to. If you want to ensure her safety and ensure, my safety, I got to do it.
You did it.
Did it. Luckily, I didn't have to fight the dog. Dude, I'm not scared of dogs. But this dog was big.
Have you ever had a situation where you're at your house and you think you're having a break-in?
Oh yeah, we've had a crazy one where we like got the guns out and stayed in the room and like aimed the guns.
So you
over
did
the door.
it. You were
Yes.
ready for war.
Yeah. I've had.
I had one time. So my old house I used to live, that we had a little hot tub on the back porch, and it was a little wooden deck on the outside. And I was laying there and I was looking out the window, and just midnight, whatever. I guess I got up, got to the bathroom, laid back down. I was just kind of looking out the window, and I saw from what it looked like, and it looked exactly like this. We had a glass door, and it looked like somebody was leaning up. You know how you put your hands on around your eyes?
Oh my god!
And you put your elbows, you flare your elbows out. And that's what I saw. I saw a shape and the elbow going up like this on one side. And I'm like, somebody's looking at my window right now. And there's something else that had happened it sort of led me to believe that this could be real. Like something else suspicious.
together.
Yeah. So there was a dude looking at my window.
Oh, it was real.
No,
Okay.
at the moment it was real. That was happening, and this dude was looking at my window.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my pistol. I sort of snuck around because I didn't want him to see me moving around.
Yeah.
So I was like, but it was on 100%. There's a dude looking at my window right now. I grabbed my pistol. I went around. I didn't even want to wake up my wife until I had my gun. And then I tapped her, and I was like, there's somebody looking in our window, Angie. I've got the gun. I don't remember. I may have given her some instructions to like, get out of the room, or I don't remember what. And she was, she just thinks I'm whatever. She's just woken up. And so I go and I had my gun and I'm pointing it at the dude who's right there. And didn't have it clear because it was super dark. And I flipped on the light, and there was a swimsuit hanging on a hook that the wind was blowing.
Oh my God.
And it's all the shadows matched up. It was nothing.
Right.
But the adrenaline, I was ready to
you, it
kill
was
that.
real.
I was ready to shoot the dude.
Yeah.
I said, if he try, I think I said something like, if he tried to come in, I'm going to shoot him. If he comes in, I'm going to shoot.
Yeah. Well, that's
It
what
was
you gotta draw
for
the
real.
line. Oof.
But then it was a swimsuit, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" And then she was irritated with me, and then I showed her, and she could see, where from that angle, from the whole, it looked. I mean, it wasn't.
But I bet you felt
wasn't
good. I mean, like okay, in the moment.
I didn't pull the trigger, but I was terrified. I was like,
But I mean, in the moment, that you would do what needed to be done.
I didn't run screaming.
Yeah.
So I guess
would.
I get points for that.
That's good.
I stayed in the room. I didn't go, hey, baby, somebody's at the window. Go look.
Oh man,
I'm scared.
That's scary though, man.
Hey, come here.
Did you wake up and saw it? Like you woke up and saw it?
I think for some reason I was up. I don't. Maybe I woke up and I saw it, or maybe I'd gone up and gone to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then I think also it added in like maybe he saw the light go on in the bathroom, and maybe he saw he would see something.
Yeah.
So there was enough of a story for it was real to me at that time. It was real, and then it wasn't. And then I couldn't sleep.
That's crazy how our brain can come up with a story like that.
Well, dude, your
I can't believe
adrenaline,
it.
and your adrenaline is going. So I mean, you can't go back to sleep after that. You're
No.
up for 2 hours.
No.
Just a pure like,
Yeah, we had that happen. We thought we heard footsteps in here, and we were like 99% sure, just like you. There was someone in the house walking around, and turns out it was like some construction outside. The way it was echoing, it sounded like footsteps. But it was a good 2 or 3 minutes where we knew somebody was in the house.
Have you had that, Soul? Have you had a situation like that?
My dog.
Your dog?
That's my dog.
But it was just
It was just me. Like everybody was out of town, so it was just me in the house. So I let the dogs in at night because if anything barks, it's loud enough to where it wake me up. So they slept in the room with me, and I guess I left the door open when I normally close it, and they walked out and knocked the trash can over.
Did you get a gun?
I don't have a gun, but I have this big buck knife.
Yeah.
So I grabbed it and I took it out, and I was like,
You were ready. You were ready for a knife fight.
Somebody-
That's even more.
And then I heard it like scratching the wall. I was like, "You son of a bitch! I'm gonna leave you outside." Just I was pissed.
Oh man, that's crazy. I had a buddy. He's passed away now, but he had someone not from this incident. He had someone break in his house and he shot him.
Really shot
But
him.
the dude lived. Dude that broke in his house lived. Now this is the story he told me. We weren't super close, but I believed him.
I had an employee once who was a concealed carry guy and shot somebody.
Oof.
And
While
ended
he was
up the guy survived. No, this was previously. It was so we were hiring and we would do like background checks and this like
the
all
guy
these things
sued
popped
him or
up.
whatever.
And he ended up in a civil suit with a guy, and the guy ended up winning money from him because they had both been drinking, and it was like mixed. It wasn't a clear cut situation.
Yeah.
So there was he didn't get in trouble legally, but he got in trouble civilly.
Right.
So he ended up having some financial situation with it. But and I had to talk to him about it because I was interviewing the guy.
Yeah. So tell me about when you shot somebody.
I was like, no, it's weird asking people when you're hiring people because anything pops up. You hire a company to do background checks for you, so everything comes up. And so you're interviewing, and you're like, you tell them, yeah, we're going to do a background check, and then you're doing your interview, and you're like, is there anything, do you want to? You try to preface it like, I got your background check stuff back. Is there anything you want to talk about? Because I don't want to be like, what happened when you got divorced in 90,
yeah, but
97?
you're also setting them up like.
Well, you
they're
don't want to
thinking,
ask.
Did it come up? Do I need to bring it up? if
It's
I don't
gonna
have
come
to?
up.
Yeah.
It's gonna come up. Yeah, it comes up. All that stuff comes
Yeah.
up. But you don't, I mean, there's certain things where, fortunately I'm not in the business of hiring people like that anymore, so I don't have to do that. I'm too compassionate, and I understand everyone's story, and I'm like, if I put myself in that position,
Right.
I'd be in the same. So
That's just the level of awareness. That's good. Compassion comes with awareness. All right, dude. Before we close this thing out, one suggestion to cure the world. What is it?
be hyper responsible.
Be hyper.
If we're all individually hyper responsible, things would get significantly better. If we own our own
ownership, yeah.
we own our own problems and our own successes.
There's a few people talking about that right now.
Jocko,
Jocko and then Tom Ballou. How do you say his last name?
I don't know that dude.
From Bo is always posting about him. I think he made Kind bars or something. Tom,
yeah.
TOMBILY.
You're just making it up. Just making up letters, dude.
I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I could be wrong about the Kind thing. I would just type in his name.
It's a good message.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you don't know Jordan Peterson, look him up. And it's my
Yeah.
favorite human.
He's pretty cool, dude. He's pretty cool. Sweet man. Or is it? Did I get it right? Can't even find him. We'll talk about it next time. Thanks for coming on, Kerry. We done.
Thanks for having
We
me.
out.
Yeah, cool.